Good afternoon and welcome to the current review on Central News. My name is Ntabise Molejane and today is Monday, the 28th of July, 2025. Today we bring you a special edition of the Tumahole Day lecture honoring the 1984 rain boycott. We bring it to you from Central News and featuring none other than the ANC veteran, Mr. Thabo Manyoni. This lecture is part of our annual Tumahole Day commemorations, marking 41 years since the historic 15 July 1984 rain boycott, when the residents of Tumahole Township rose against apartheid injustice. This bold act of defiance not only challenged the oppressive rent hikes, but it also became a powerful catalyst linking to the broader uprising and inspiring resistance across South Africa. Today, we broadcast live on Central News and we reflect on the critical role that Tumahole has played in shaping the history of our country. We bring to you Thabo Manyoni, who was born and raised in Tumahole and who was at the heart of this struggle, from organizing community resistance in the 1980s to his later leadership roles in the Free State province. His legacy embodies both the courage of the past and also a vision for a renewed future. We believe that this lecture is not only a remembrance of the past, but a bridge to the present, linking our history of resistance to the current challenges of unity, renewal, and progress in our democracy. And now, without further delay, it is my honor to usher in our speaker for the 2025 Tumahole Day lecture, ANC veteran, Mr. Thabo Manyoni. Welcome, sir, and thank you for joining us today.
Let me also take the opportunity to thank you, also Ntabise, for the kind words and also the titles that you are giving me. It is quite a pleasure. I appreciate it. And also let me take the opportunity to thank all your viewers, listeners all over in the country. Yes, I agree with you. It has been many years since young people of Tumahole took to the streets to fight mainly what was seen as a rental, but in general, the conditions that were prevailing during that apartheid era. And that event, as we mostly now know, it also then sparked later what was called the Val riots, which later then spread all over the country. I would want us not to go through each and every step of that particular day. I think many speakers on your platform and also during this July month, they have been talking about exactly what happened during that day. And it will not be proper for us to keep on regurgitating about that. But mainly, what I want to put on record and for all of us to understand is that period is basically marked by the energy of young people. Young people were central during that day to spark that flame, which ultimately caught the whole country. And I think today, when we talk about Tumahole Day, one would want to know the answer to the question, what then? Yes, it happened during that time, so what? And two, what one would want to answer is, do we still need another Tumahole Day? We've got democracy, we've got a democratic constitution, we've got a government that we fought for. So is Tumahole Day still relevant to talk about? Or we just want to bask in the past glories of what happened in our history, and that's it. And I think it is then proper for us in answering those to start by saying young people are the future of the country. And that Tumahole Day indicated and showed us that. Let me take this opportunity then to say, friends, people of Tumahole, fellow citizens of my country and comrades, it is well said that a people may lose its liberty in a day and not miss it in half a century. What this means is you might lose your freedom and you would not even realize it for half a century. And today we should ask the question, have we really lost our freedom? And I think the answer is in the affirmative. And two, we still are in hope that it is still existing, it is still there, but it is not. The second issue that the old who came before us said was, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. You need to be vigilant if you have liberty and freedom, because how kapanya fell, it is gone. And I think we have not been vigilant enough to date. Therefore, that's why we find ourselves in the state that we are in. It is my privilege to participate and share my thoughts with you on this occasion of Tumahole Day anniversary of July month. I must say I feel a deeper solitude for the future of South Africans and Africans now than before. The main cause of my anxiety is the deplorable condition poor South Africans find themselves in at this juncture. Since the first democratic elections in our country, many Africans have lost now hope as they wait in this deplorable state of affairs, where hunger, joblessness, escalating crime are common features of our country. At the same time, the center seems not to be holding, as our ruling party, the beloved, gigantic organization, and also a government in general, seem to be irrelevant and not having a vision or a way out of this quagmire. And I think those are the issues that we need to address as we remember those whose blood were shed during that Tumahole Day. I can also boldly say I have assisted in fighting one battle for the abolition of apartheid, and many South Africans have shed their blood in pursuing of freedom and democratic constitution in our country. And neither I nor they should wish to fight this battle over again. I would not want us to see another Tumahole Day again. And in order that we may not then have another Tumahole Day, we should look at the facts in the face of today, and if possible, nip the evil that we are faced with in the bud, the evil that I already indicated, which is joblessness, poverty, the rising crime, and so forth. But all of this depend on leadership, the leadership that we should be having or that we might have. Let me borrow from the greatest orator of time, which is Frederick Douglass, in 1888, when addressing the condition of the supposed to be freed slaves in the South, in America, and say, what is the condition of majority of South Africans at this moment, and what is the state of our country? We are often confronted of late in the press and on the platforms with the discouraging statement that the problem of the Black people as free people and as citizens is not yet solved. That since his emancipation, he has disappointed the best hopes of his friends and fulfilled the worst predictions of his enemies, and that he has shown himself unfit for the position assigned him by the mistaken statesmanship of the nation. It is said that physically, morally, socially, and religiously, he is in a condition vastly more deplorable than was his conditions as under apartheid. That he has not proven himself so good a master to himself as his old master was to him. That he is gradually but surely sinking below the point of industry, good manners, and civilization to which he attained in a state of apartheid, that his economy is wasteful. Everything that we touch gets rotten. That his honesty is deceitful. That his morals are impure. That his domestic life is beastly. And his worship is simply emotional. And that, in a word, he is falling into a state of barbarism. That is the state that we are confronted with in our country through newspapers, media, and so on. That yes, we are falling into a state of barbarism. We are even worse than during apartheid. The last few years have given new life to Antonio Gramsci's quote, which most people don't want to quote in full, and I will do so here. Gramsci said, "The old world is dying, and the new world struggles to be born. Now is the time of monsters." As usual, Gramsci is right. But also, we must remember, monsters are what we make of them. While their actions are monstrous, the men performing them are human beings. We should be wary of giving them the power of monsters or affording them any mythical and opposable status. They are human beings. In other words, they can be defeated. We presently find ourselves with leaders, and mainly in government, of people who don't know how they find themselves in positions they are in. That is the turtle syndrome, which is said that a turtle once found itself on the high pole and it did not know how did it arrive there, and it did not know how to perform and so forth, being in that high position. The time has come for a new departure as to the kind of leaders who are to be the standard bearers of our ruling party and also of our government. We must agree we have had enough of names. We now want good results, not names. We have had enough of good feeling, enough of shaking hands over the bloody chasm, enough of reconciliation, enough of laudation of the bravery of our poor, like we are doing about Tumahole Day, that those were the brave people. But that is enough. The issue is, what are we doing about the state of affairs? Let me say, let us have a leader this time of pronounced opinions, and above all, a backbone. This must apply to all spheres of government, local, provincial, and national. Are we having people with a backbone to tackle the issues that we are faced with today? Second, let me indicate that politics is about the power to act. Mobilizing people's power should not be limited to voter participation or protests. Politics is also not the sole domain of political parties or career activists. Mobilizing people's power needs to be a basic and a pervasive part of participation and political life in a democracy. In other words, we should stop this thing of selling South Africans that they have a democracy, and their democracy only applies every 5 years when they go to the market to buy the political party that they want. And then after that, they have to fold hands and do nothing. Politics is about the power to act. Our answer is to rely on the youth, like it happened during that Tumahole Day, 15th July. Not a youth in terms of time, but a youth in terms of the state of mind, a temper of the will, a quality of imagination, a predominance of courage over timidity, of the appetite for adventure over the love of ease. The cruelties and deplorable state we find ourselves in will not yield to absolute dogmas and outworn slogans. They have been there, all these slogans. that we always say, long live Tambo, long live Mandela. But all this would not change the deplorable state that we find ourselves. They cannot be moved by those who cling to a present that is already dying, who prefer the illusion of security to the excitement and danger that come with even the most peaceful progress. The young of this generation at present moment has had the thrust upon it a greater burden of responsibility than any generation that has ever lived. Because they will be faced with challenging the present status quo, and the present status quo is not necessarily apartheid. So their challenge is bigger than even ours during that time, because ours, at least the enemy was clear. And I think young people of this juncture, they basically must stand up to make sure that they also have their names written in the history of those who were able to change the status quo as it happened during July 15th of that year. The future does not belong to those who are content with the present status, apathetic towards common problems and their fellow men alike, timid and fearful in the face of new ideas and bold projects. Rather, it belongs to those who can blend vision, reason, and courage in a personal commitment to the ideals and greater vision of our African society. We must deplore also the young who basically are more merit and running after tenders with no vision about the South Africa that they want to have. And I think if we have to learn anything from the July 15 of that day of Tumahole, is young people stood up and they said, enough is enough. And everybody followed later. Even today, faced with the challenges, as we call them in South Africa, which basically it's a state of deplorable affairs, young people are expected to stand up and chart their own history, just like during Tumahole Day. Yes, there will be casualties along the way, as it happened with Thabo Manyoni and others who were there. But at the end of the day, their blood actually assisted us to be at this phase where basically we can be able to say we are a little bit better than before, but we need to make sure that we move out of this quagmire. And young people of Tumahole are supposed and expected to follow those who came before them in ensuring that they change also the status quo that they are faced with in this country. I therefore would say the message that we want to send and the message that we basically must be talking about is what is it that we are doing about the state of affairs that we find ourselves at the moment in our country, particularly in Tumahole, where things seem to be falling apart and no one is willing to stand up and say, enough is enough. This is the way forward, and this is what needs to be done. And I think as we prepare for the forthcoming local government elections, we must then look into having those leaders, the leaders that I mentioned, the leaders with a backbone, the leaders with vision, leaders who will make sure that we change the status quo. We address the issue of poverty. We address the issue of unemployment. Leaders who are willing to sacrifice their comfort zones, like I'm saying in this lecture. Thank you very much. Ausintabiseng.
Thank you so much, Mr. Manyoni, for those words and taking us on a journey not only of the history of Tumahole, but also on a journey of reflection as young people. One of the most powerful things you said when you were addressing, you said young people, it's a state of mind, it's having an imagination, it's having that courage, that boldness of wanting to change the status quo. And thank you so much also because I believe that all the viewers, everybody that is listening, there is a reflection on Duma Holiday and also on the current happenings in the country. We know that there's a lot of instability. And as you talked about unemployment, we are fighting a drug, war in the country. But also thank you for also encouraging the youth to actually stand up, and take action. If we want our names to be written in history, it starts with us. So thank you so much for reminding us that being young, it's a state of mind. It's being courageous, it's being bold, and it's saying that what can I do now in the current state that I find myself in. Thank you so much for joining us, Tate Manyoni. I believe that we thoroughly enjoyed the reflections that you gave us on the current state of our country, but most importantly, reflecting on Dumaule's history and bridging that gap to what is happening today in our country.
Thanks very much, Thabiseng. I think as time goes on, we would like to bring young people under one roof and discuss the state of affairs. But what I'm saying is, we, the old, are dying, and the new cannot be born. And as I indicated from Gramsci, we are in a state of the monsters. And it's upon us, particularly young people, to stop those monsters so that we can then be able to chart the Africa and South Africa that our phobias wanted to have. We all know what our constitution is saying, that we need to have a South Africa where everybody is free, where we all are equal, where basically we are living better than what we had yesterday. But at the moment, that new cannot be born. And the key lies with our young people. They are the ones who basically must open for us to get into that future. And I think basically with your platform and the help that you basically are putting forth with this sharing of thoughts and so on, we will then be able to mobilize those who are bold enough and who have a vision to come forth and be able to solve the problems that the country is faced with.
Thank you so much, Mr. Manyoni, for joining us. Have yourself a good day.
Thanks very much.
There you have it, viewers. That concludes this special Tumahole Day lecture. We were joined by Mr. Thabo Manyoni, and we thank you, our viewers, for joining us today as we honored the bravery of Tumahole residents, but also reflected on how their actions will continue to inspire our present. From all of us here at Central News, my name is Ntabiseng Molejane. Until next time, we thank you for joining us.